You know what I just realized? I was saying the gender bent version. Oh my god, I was. Wait, no, I was. That's so not. I just finished recording the first part of it. I can go back up. Hi, my name is Lynx, and you're watching Space Noobs. Welcome to the 4th episode of my Yandere Simulator Reimagined series. So if you haven't seen the last few episodes, then you should probably go watch them, because there is a lot to unpack in this video. But first, I'll summarize the last few episodes to you all in a sped-up fashion. So, as I've stated in all of my other videos, in my version of Yandere Simulator, or Lovesick, whatever you'd like to call it, Ayano Aishi was a transfer student at the prestigious elite school named Psycho Academy in her junior year. She is the daughter of a lovesick serial killer who also went to the same very school and got away with her crimes. Unfortunately, Ayano Aishi carries on the same unhealthy traits as her mother and has fallen in love with a former pop star schoolboy named Tarimata. Putting on a practiced fake facade as a sweet schoolgirl who could do nothing wrong, she had gained a lot of support and friends by the end of her junior year, including another junior who goes to the same homeroom as her, named Kuroki Watanabe, who is a replacement of the original character Infotan. Kuroki is the first one to know about Ayano's crush on the now stressed and overworking Tarimata. Fast forward, and Ayano's crush on Taro becomes very unhealthy, and she becomes the stalker that her mother used to be when she was her age. At the start of her senior year, she had already gone on a spree of elimination, depending on what the player wants to do, and she's already eliminated 4 of her rivals in the last few months. Each of the rivals have contrasting difference from each other, but ultimately share similarities in their own separate episodes. Like, for instance, Osana Najimi, or Himari Sato now, and Amayo Yaka's episode really being about friendship, and Kazana and Oka's episode being about selfish reasons turning to love. Very much counterparts to Ayano herself. Ayano Aishi believes that she has to do everything in her power to get what she wants, even if that means being a manipulative, violent person. That's pretty much the whole synopsis. But, of course, like I've always said, be careful, because Ayano Aishi still has eyes on her every move. So, will you be risky, or will you play nice? That's for the player to decide. Alright, now let's get into the generalized topic of this episode. For example, our first rival in today's video is Atsudo Shidesu, or Rito. Now, for those who know a bit about the original rivals of Yandere Simulator, you might recognize the last name. And that's because Osoro Shidesu, which is the delinquent rival, and Atsudo Shidesu, aka Rito, are related to each other. In fact, they are siblings, just like Taro and his younger sister Hanako Yamada, who will be talked about in the next and final episode. This entire episode is solely based on family. So before we get into everyone else, we must of course talk about Ayano Aishi and her family first, since I never really got into the small but changed details of Ayano's parents and how they come into play in the story. Also, if I ever made the game myself, this would be the first cutscene to start the next 2 weeks of the game. Okay, like I said, this episode is for sure about family. Not just due to the rivals in this episode itself, but also Ayano's family being concerned for Ayano's mental health, and talking about whatever she did the week before. Ayano's parents had just gotten back from their little vacation that Ayano couldn't attend to due to school. Ayano is pretty normal for the most part when they come back, but something about Ayano was clearly off after the last week of rivalry. That week being Okuruto's. They were either made aware of the situation depending on what you chose to do, or they won't know anything at all, but can still quite sense that something is off about their daughter, as her moodiness is quite noticeable. Ayano's parents will now be a bit of an obstacle for the later chapters of the story. There are a few cutscenes that show the beyond strained relationship Ayano has with her mother, and it's clear that Ayano refuses to tell her any of her thoughts and tries to shoo Ryoba away. But Ryoba just grows increasingly worried and suspicious of Ayano. Ryoba ends up catching her in a lie and immediately lets her father know how strange their daughter has been acting. It becomes harder depending on the route you're going for, the genocide route being the hardest of the scene, of course. So, in the later chapters, it'll be a lot harder to do things when Ayano's parents, and specifically her mother, is around. If you get caught, her parents have different reactions, but ultimately result in the same ending. Like getting sent to a mental institution where Ayano belongs, or sent to jail if caught with worse. But enough of that side plot, let's finally speak about our next 2 rivals in today's episode. First up, Atsudo Shidesu, also known as Rito, who has now been transformed into a guy for character variety purposes in my version of Yansen. The Shidesu twins have finally returned to Psycho Academy after initially being suspended for a good 2.5 weeks. Now, why were these 2 suspended for so long? Well, let's just say that families stick together no matter what. And if someone were to try your family in a negative fashion, they might just get their shit rocked. But we're just gonna get into that a little later and talk about the twins individually. Starting with Atsudo Shidesu, the most friendly twin out of the two of them, a bubbly and energetic soul who is the top swimmer and one of the most well-respected students at Psycho Academy. Atsudo Shidesu is excited about not only going back to school and being the star athlete of the whole school, but also meeting up with someone incredibly familiar, Tara Yamada. During her nice walk to school, Ayano Aishi herself was making small talk with Tara Yamada, with Hanako alongside them. They both bond over the traumatic experience that was Okaruto. Ayano Aishi was happy with the fact that this was the closest she had ever been to Tara Yamada, and also the first real time she had met Taro's younger sister up close, Hanako Yamada, who of course also goes to the same very school as a sophomore or second year. Hanako herself chimes in on their conversation a few times, and overall Ayano was having the time of her life until Atsudo comes into the picture and is in immense excitement to see his best friend, Tara Yamada, of course. Unknowingly bumping into Ayano just to latch onto Taro's side with a big toothy grin, Tara Yamada is happy to see his best friend, introducing Atsudo to a startled Ayano. Atsudo happily greets Ayano before he tells Taro that he's going to get him back into shape now that he's back at the school, revealing that Taro and Atsudo used to be swim mates when they were younger. However, ever since Taro's parents died last year, Taro has lost a good amount of interest in his hobbies and has spent the majority of his free time working. This would include his love for swimming and being able to swim with his former teammate of the junior high swim team, Atsudo, which was how they met. It takes a bit of begging from Atsudo and even convincing from Hanako for Taro to finally agree on getting back to the shared and loved hobby. Atsudo and Hanako cheer, incredibly happy that Atsudo would be back in Taro's school life and getting him back into his talents as he should. All of them were happy except for Ayano. And don't get me wrong, Ayano isn't incredibly shallow to the point where she would want Taro at his lowest at all times. However, she's more or less upset that someone as close as Atsudo was to Taro would be the one to take away her time with him, meaning that Ayano had another rival on her hands. In the first half of Atsudo's week, Ayano would grow a one-sided hatred for Atsudo and how incredibly close he was to Taro. She stalked Atsudo wherever he went to get more information about him. She was able to confirm that Atsudo had a crush on Taro. Was that a big surprise? No, not really. Ayano Aishi asks Kuroki Watanabe about what time Atsudo does his daily afternoon swim in a very non-suspicious manner. And honestly, this is the part where Ayano becomes a little too sloppy with her stalking because someone very important in this video has caught her a good chunk of times. This person is Atsudo's twin sister, Osoro Shidesu. When I was designing like concepts of the new Yandere Simulator characters and stuff, Atsudo or Oso was actually not going to be a boy, but the reason why I made him a boy was because of like this weird memory of this Minecraft Yandere Simulator story thing where it's like telling the Yandere Simulator story in like a very Minecraft movie way. There's like this rival at the very end. I didn't watch the rest of it, but like there's this rival at the very end and it's like this guy or something. And I was like, wait, now I think about it, like what if I just like make a guy rival? Because like, yeah, why not? Let's throw that in, guys. Tara Yamada is queer, bisexual. I don't know. He's one of those. Let's get go! To be honest with you, other than that, I just made him a guy. And also another thing too, dude, I was like so contemplating like what I was going to do with the fucking twins because I wasn't really planning for them to be twins. Like, I was planning on making like a twin set of Okaruto, but I decided to do for this one because it's like, I don't know. Honestly, these 2 weeks for like Yandere Simulator in my version is very messy because you have so much time to like figure out what you're gonna do and they all lead into different routes. And because of the fact that they're twins, I think it is a good time for me to just, you know, combine those 2 weeks together. But like if you're doing like the pacifist route, you're probably not gonna get a week's week. What week are we on? Okay, the 4th week is Okaruto, right? The 5th week is Aso or Atsudo. Oh, that's a fire ass name. You know what I just realized? What if I was just saying, I was saying the gender bent version? Oh, bro. Oh my god, I was. Wait, no, I was. That's so not. Ooh, I just finished recording. I just finished recording the first part of it. I can fucking go back on it. Oh, I've been saying the gender bent name. The one with the freaking male rivals. Oops. My bad. Okay, yeah, no. You know, I was trying to base off actual designs that I've seen for like Yandere Simulator, and like specifically with Atsudo, I like searched up the male rivals for Yandere Simulator, and like I was like taking inspiration off of like the way that he looks, and I was like, how can I make this cool? How can I make this very, very, very cool? And then boom, I have this. I don't really like these. I like the designs. I don't like the way that I drew them. We're gonna move on and we're gonna go over to Osoro. Osoro was on her way to meet up with her brother, Atsudo, so they could both return home. While walking to the pool area, she sees Ayano Aishi, just watching both her brother Atsudo and Taryamada from a distance. It was awfully unsettling because it wasn't like a friend on their way to greet their other friends, but almost like she was just standing there, menacingly. Osoro even swears to herself that she saw Ayano Aishi frowning and looking at Atsudo with such hate. This is the first time where Osoro notices something very wrong with Ayano Aishi. Osoro is the hot-headed twin that most people fear due to her aggressive behavior, especially when it comes to someone attempting to try her brother in any shape, way, or form. Like, genuinely, the only reason the twins were both suspended was that someone disrespected her brother, and in response, Osoro immediately threw hands right in front of her brother, just straight up, no questions asked. Honestly, in my opinion, she kinda ate that, but that's just me. Now, you can quickly end the route by choosing the pacifist route and matchmaking Atsudo with someone else so that he's no longer a quote-unquote threat. Or, if you were to select the genocide route, you could do some sort of murdered method. I don't know. I didn't really think much into it this time because it's a bizarre topic to really think deeply about, in my opinion. Let's just say that Ayano did the dumbbells on the head dropping method, and whilst Atsudo doesn't initially die in my story, he does end up in a coma. And the person to witness something as crazy and completely non-accidental as this was Osoro Shidesu, as she was literally speaking with her brother outside and behind the school. Out of shock and horror, she looks up to see a glimpse of Ayano's dark maroon colored braids as Ayano hurries off on the school's rooftop. This scene is enough to signal the genocide route. The genocide route is always the main route to receive the heaviest of consequences, especially in this portion of the story. If you choose that route, then you will receive a different version of Osoro's route. That isn't the same way as how Oka's route transpires, but a more tame and less erratic version of her route. Osoro's route is where Osoro gathers up more evidence about Ayano Aishi being some sort of serial killer, where almost anyone who even glances at Taryamada in a slightly intimate way is either found dead or has disappeared. A key example of this would be when Osoro gets a note in her locker saying something like, "I know where you can find what you're looking for," and it's in the photo lab on the shelf. This is when Osoro found the old smashed camera that Ayano used to murder Oko with. The camera that Ayano never got rid of, and instead hid it in the school's photo lab, not realizing that she didn't get rid of all of the evidence, and instead there was one last photo in the camera that pointed towards Ayano officially being the culprit of Oka's murder. It was Oka's last ever photo on that camera that featured a glimpse of Ayano's face as she reached out to Oka before doing the unthinkable. Osoro is almost like a mixture of the detective guy and the undercover cop girl in the 1980s mode, but obviously in a very Osoro way. What the fuck does that even mean?
I don't fucking know.
A way to beat the genocide version is to be quick with it and frame Osoro for a crime she didn't commit, so that she would be sent to jail before Ayano is ever exposed for the countless crimes she herself has committed. Now let's move on to a more neutral route that isn't the pacifist route, because if it were, then the player would not have to worry about Osoro whatsoever, and instead, honestly, in the pacifist route, Ayano would befriend Osoro because I think it would be a really good way to like have some, I can't really think of it, to be honest. Okay, yeah, alright. I'm sidetracking. Okay, anyways. Okay, so the last route is the more neutral route. It doesn't necessarily end in the way the genocide route does. However, Osoro still grows pretty suspicious about Ayano Aishi, and she makes things a lot more difficult when attempting to eliminate Atsudo in the second week, and whatever the player wants. Osoro in this route is honestly like Raimaru in the original Osana Najimi route in Yandere Simulator. However, Osoro isn't some overpowered character. She's just a more difficult obstacle that the player must get around. Oh, I forgot to mention. I completely forgot to mention. The teacher and that nurse do not exist in my version of Yandere Simulator. I don't want PDF files. That's a horrible name. I do not want PDF files in my story. Is that an unpopular opinion? Like, I just don't. I don't want to, and I don't want to make it. I'm not going to. So that's not what I'm going to do. Okay, so, like, let's move over to Osoro. Like, Osoro, again. Guys, I do not like how these drawings came up. I'm not gonna lie. I think I'm moving a little bit too much. Like, my blocks are, like, hitting my fucking microphone every time I freaking speak. Guys, I think I might need help on anatomy. I might need help on anatomy. Like, I didn't know what to do. I gave her, like, pockets on her skirt, but, like, why is her hands doing? Why are her hands doing that? I am so bad at art. What's happening right now? Guys, I'm freaking out. Okay. Well, now we know exactly the reason why my channel was called Space Noobs, because bitch, I'm a noob too. That's pretty much all I wanted to say with the Shidesu twins. I'm cutting out majority of this. Yeah. And no matter what you pick, this week or these 2 weeks will eventually end. And Ayano, or the player, can finally cool off. Or can you? The answer is no. Hi, I hope you enjoyed the storyline of today's episode, and if you didn't, let me know why down in the comments in a respectful way. Also, if you do have your own ideas of how you would interpret these characters in any way, please share them down in the comments too, because I would love to see your ideas. I have no idea when this video will officially come out, but I'm guessing it will be in 2026, so Happy New Year's. Or whatever. Eventually, I'll be posting more videos in the new year that aren't just Yansen, because after I'm done making and uploading the last episode, I will absolutely be happy to move the on from this series. This was my first official series on this channel, and I cannot wait to come out with more series. I cannot wait to come out with with more cool original stories. That is all I wanted to say. So thank you so much for watching till the end. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you later. Goodbye now. Let's go! I only did that in like almost 30 minutes. Okay, let's go.